My name is Emily, and my biggest concern is the stratospheric aerosol injections that are continuously peppered on us every day. Um, Bromium, aluminum, strontium, it's sprayed in our skies all day long. And I know you've talked to Dane Wigington about this. He seems to be one of the experts in the field.
Is there a question?
Yes. How do we stop it?
That is not happening in my agency. You know, we don't do that. It's done, we think, by DARPA, and a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes,
So, you know, those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think only about that, find out who's doing it, and holding them accountable.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s father was also a politician, and he was assassinated. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s uncle, John F. Kennedy, was also assassinated live in front of cameras, in front of the hundreds of thousands of people on TV. One of the most horrific things Americans have witnessed in recent memory. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s, I guess it would be cousin, John F. Kennedy Jr., died under what many believe are odd circumstances. A lot of people think he was taken out as well. He was very charismatic, and he had the Kennedy name. So there's something about these Kennedys that speak out that the establishment does not like. I mean, when someone murders you, I'd say that means there's something about you they don't like. And, you know, me and you can sit here and say, oh, I'm anti-establishment. You know, I don't believe everything I read in the papers. You know, there's so much corruption in the world. There's corruption in the courts. There's corruption in politics and all this. But I don't think either myself or you have ever said something that was so offensive to the establishment that they tried to attack us and actually murder us. Okay, so Robert F. Kennedy Jr. seems to be part of that Kennedy tradition where the things that he says are so, they offend the mainstream so much that they have to constantly attack him, and they have to paint him out to be this crazy, you know, nutcase. And they will even make fun of the way he talks to sort of, you know, help their case, which is really messed up because he has a condition in his throat. He can't help the way he talks. It has nothing to do with his intelligence. He has a problem with his throat. That's the way he talks the way he does. Just because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Seems to be very anti-establishment and that the establishment hates him so much, that doesn't mean he's automatically right about everything. But I do think it is significant that he is the first, you know, politician of note to announce on a major level that there's an awareness of chemtrails, basically what they're doing in the skies, and that something's going to be done about it. And so that gets my attention because, you know, like you, I have eyes and I walk outside and I see all the lines in the sky, and I don't have the best memory, but when I was a kid, I don't remember seeing all that in the sky. You'd see one once in a while. You'd see one lone, you know, plane up there cruising along, leaving this, you know, line behind it. But I don't remember like these planes just going at it and crisscrossing their lines, and then it just billows out, and then it creates this thin layer over the whole sky. And so, you know, without even doing any research, you can look up there and you can kind of go, well, they're doing something up there, and I'm probably breathing it. And if you're like me and you have bad allergies, you think about this stuff. And, you know, sometimes you wish you could just, you know, pull out an app on your phone, and maybe there is an app like this, and just put it in the air and, you know, tell me what's in the air. I want to find out what's making me sneeze, what's bothering my eyes. And it's funny how kind of complicated and difficult that seems to be. That you would think by now that would be really easy to do. You know, you've got people going on jogs and running and counting their heartbeats and, you know, monitoring their sleep, how many times they snore, how many times they wake up. But don't you care about the air you're breathing? What's going into your lungs? I mean, you know, don't you want to know how many parts per million of this and that is in your air? So I typed the word chemtrails into DuckDuckGo. And the first thing that comes up is chemtrail conspiracy theory. Well, I wasn't asking about the chemtrail conspiracy theory. I just typed chemtrails. So obviously, I want to know what a chemtrail is. And look at this. The whole first page consists of telling you what a chemtrail conspiracy theory is. All right, let's try this again. Chemtrail definition. A contrail consisting of chemicals or biological agents deliberately sprayed at high altitudes according to certain conspiracy theories. They can't even give you the meaning of the word without telling you, oh, but conspiracy theorists say that this is a thing. Well, I mean, it is a thing. It's a contrail consisting of chemicals or biological agents. Period. That's what it is. It's a fact. They're taking one thing and describing it and then automatically putting it into this context that you didn't really ask for. So what this sort of says to me is these search engines are all sort of designed to attack the idea that chemicals are being sprayed into the air. And these algorithms are obviously programmed by the powers that be, who are beholden to those powers that are in control of putting this crap in our environment. The fact that there is such a thing as a chemtrail sort of assumes that it's in the sky and eventually is going to probably sink down to the ground. And of course, in very small amounts, that's probably not going to harm anyone. But in large amounts, it's definitely a concern. And so tests need to be ran and the public needs to be informed, but the public is not informed because every time they ask a question, all they get is these headlines. Oh, why are you a conspiracy theorist? Why are you thinking about that? Why don't you educate yourself? Well, educate me. You know what question they never ask? Where are these planes going? If they're not putting stuff in the air, then what is their objective? I mean, these are just random planes just sort of taking a drive. I'm going to go this way, and then my buddy's going to go in a way which crosses my path, and then we're going to make a nice little tic-tac-toe design in the sky. I mean, these aren't Southwest airline planes. These aren't, Alaska Airlines planes. These are, some sort of special, military plane. I found this article referencing an article called Assessing Outcomes in Stratospheric Aerosol Injection Scenarios Shortly After Deployment. And this is basically a simulation which looks at two different scenarios where we don't do anything to the environment and we just see if the earth gets hotter or whatever, the global warming happens. And then what the result is if we do stratospheric aerosol injection. It's so funny. They say this stuff is conspiracy theory, and then they go and just say, oh yeah, there's a thing called stratospheric aerosol injection. There's a thing called cloud seeding. I mean, if cloud seeding exists, which is openly acknowledged that it does, to produce precipitation in clouds, then how is it a conspiracy theory to say that there's planes up there putting chemicals in the sky? It's a fact that chemicals are being put in the sky to create rain. It's out in the open. But then we're not supposed to think that there's anything nefarious going on with that. I mean, I don't know. I guess they just think we're stupid, and maybe they're right. Maybe we are stupid. Anyhow, these stratospheric aerosol injections is a proposed form of climate intervention. What an interesting phrase, climate intervention. And, this article is kind of interesting. It talks about the effects of making monsoons less powerful and the effects on agriculture and farms. I mean, everything you would think of if you just sat there and didn't have any special background in your education and just thought logically, they go over here. And so, if they're talking about doing it, odds are they have probably been doing it already for a long time. And at the end of this, if you look at the acknowledgments, the Glenn's experiment was supported by DARPA funding. So DARPA is part of this, funding this stimulation. So DARPA, if you look at the DARPA website, it's a military website. There's a lot of information on there. You look at the Wikipedia entry, you can look at some of the projects they're involved with, and it's extremely vast. And I actually went through all of the projects listed on Wikipedia. I didn't see anything specific to cloud seeding or weather modification. However, what they're doing in the sky could easily be related to one of these other projects, but may not be directly referenced in the wording. Some of the materials that they're putting in the atmosphere might help conduct certain frequencies so that for various applications. So I don't have any big revelations here. I just think that it is significant that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is claiming he's going to look into this and he wants to get to the bottom of it. And I think that's great. I think this should be applauded. And I think that the media painting him out to be a nut job should be called out and reprimanded for doing this, because they obviously don't care about the things you and I care about, which is like, what the hell are they doing up there and what am I breathing? The individual mentioned by the lady asking the question, Dane Wigington, is involved with this film called The Dimming, full-length climate engineering documentary. I started to watch it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but this obviously is in reference to, the dimming of the sun, putting particles into the air, aerosols or whatever, to reflect the sun's light back up and to, keep the earth cooler, to fight global warming, which is part of what that article we just looked at talks about. I didn't find it all that informative, this documentary, but I would still recommend it. It's interesting. And there might be something critical in there that I overlooked. This is something we as Americans who claim we're, all about freedom and thinking for ourselves. This is something we're just standing under and just whistling and do. Oh, getting angry about racial issues and, sexual orientation issues and political issues. Meanwhile, there's all this crap in the sky that, that we're just pretending isn't happening and acting like it's all normal. And we don't even care what it might be doing to us. I really hope something comes out of this department that RFK Jr. says he's establishing to look at this very type of stuff.